text just like you always do. Class is equal to, go form control, placeholder is equal to full name, close that off. And you can see right there how the label goes directly inside of there. It's like the two of them are connected. So it's a nice little style element. Throw a break statement at the end and then do pretty much exactly the same thing here. So let's just copy this. Here we can change this to small just so you can see the difference between large and small. And in this situation, we'll just put the input before the label that we have inside of there, just so you can see how that looks. And then inside of the span, input group, let's say we want it to be a button instead of just a regular old label, so you'll be able to catch an event that would be clicked on whenever you clicked on that button. And then what you could do is actually throw a button inside of it. So we'll just go button and give this a class name of button, and let's just use the default button in this situation, and then enter. And you can see it's a little bit smaller because that's how we defined it, and now this is a button that we can actually have events triggered on. This is just a label. This is a button. And you can put those on the right or the left side of the screen, just depending upon how you want to do it, or the right and the left side of the screen. We could also come in here and create input button drop downs. And in this situation, we're going to have a div once again, and this is going to use the class of row. Of course, put this inside of quotes. This is going to have another div inside of it, which is going to have a class of input group. I'm showing you pretty much everything you can use here with Bootstrap. Tons of neat tools. And then put another div inside of this, and this is going to be an input group button. And then finally throw our button inside of it. Class is equal to button. Let's just throw a default button inside of there. The type on this is button. Bounce back inside of the class. Let's put drop down toggle so that it toggles from being on to being off. And then we're also going to go data toggle is equal to drop down. And then once again, just like we did with our other drop down, we'll have aria has pop up equal to true, and aria expanded, meaning that it's not going to be expanded whenever it opens up. Set that to false, and we could throw something inside of here like user ID. And then after that, we could throw a span inside of here, which is going to have a caret. So span, and give this the class of caret, so it will show a caret symbol like you would expect with a drop down. And then we could put in our unordered list items, and this is going to have class of drop down menu because that's what it is. And then we can have our list items inside of here as well. And let's make these links go nowhere. We can do something like Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. Now after that closes off, well, first off, take this span up here. This is a caret symbol right here, so you don't want it down there, you want it up here. That's just going to put the caret in there for the drop down. And then we can come in here and put in an input box. So let's say we're asking for like a username on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+, and they're going to put that in and then choose Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. You'll see here in a second what it looks like. Type, this is just going to be a text input. Class is equal to form control. And now you can see if I save that, we can click on user ID, Facebook, and then they could type in whatever their user ID is on Facebook or whatever you'd want to do. They also have some special tools we can use for radio boxes as well as check boxes inside of Bootstrap. So we're going to put this inside of a div with the class of row once again. And we're also going to come in and create a div class. This is going to be an input group. We could throw a span inside of here. Class is equal to, and put input group add-on, and then put input, and this guy is going to be a checkbox. If you'd want it to be a radio button instead, just put radio button, or just put radio instead of checkbox inside of there. And then we can group this up with the just a basic old input box right like this, and it just provides a way for us to group different interface elements together, as you can see right there. So they could put the check inside of there and then write some sort of information inside of there and do whatever else you'd like. Another thing we can do is create a bunch of other different types of navigation elements. Again, I'm going to do this inside of a div with the class name of container. And let's say we wanted to create a basic horizontal menu. Well, we're just going to create an unordered list and give it the class name of list inline. And then inside of this, you're just going to put all of your list items. So list item, and then you could put links inside of here. Let's just have that go there, and you could do something like home, close off your list item. And let's make a couple of these. You could also come in and do an about. We could also come in and add a drop down menu. So we could do list item again, and all we need to do is come in and change the class name to drop down and then put some different information inside of it. So we could have a link here, and a couple things we need to change, however. We can still leave that be hrefs be nothing. However, we want to come in and have our class be drop down toggle. That's how we can turn the drop down on and off. And then of course we got to go data toggle, just like we have a bunch of other different times, and type in drop down. And then this guy right here could be contact or something like that. We could go and throw a span inside of here again if we would want to put a caret symbol inside of there, and then just close off that span. And then inside of this we could put a whole bunch of different list items. So we need to put in an unordered list once again. Class is equal to, and this is going to be drop down menu, and then you'll put in your list items for that drop down menu for your horizontal bar. So list item, real simple. Close that off, and then you could throw in all of your different links inside of there. So let's say we wanted them to be able to contact us by phone or email, or have another option where they could set an appointment or schedule an appointment. And it's going to automatically scale everything, so you don't have to worry about any of that. And save that, reload it, and you can see right there exactly how that works out. If we click on that contact, that drop down right there will show you all the different options you have available. So real easy to add those horizontal menus as well, and then go in and style them just like before. Could also come in and create a basic vertical menu in kind of a similar way. So let's just go create an unordered list, and we just give it a class name. Here what I'm going to do is use pills for the vertical menu. So I'm going to go navigation, and I'll go nav pills and nav stacked since it's vertical. And inside of it we just put all our list items again. So li, and here we'll just say class is equal to, and let's have this be the active pill or navigation element on the screen, which means it's just going to be selected. Href, and then we'll throw in home like we did previously. Close off our list item, and let's do it just like we did with our previous menu that we had here. We could throw this inside of here and throw about inside of there. We're also going to be able to use drop downs if we want. So we'll go in and throw our next list item inside of here. However, this is going to be a drop down, so we're going to call this drop down. It's automatically going to work for us. And inside of there we can just go and throw a link inside of there. Give this a class name, which is drop down toggle. Again, we're doing the same thing in the same sort of ways. Again, data toggle to make it show up there, and this is going to be drop down. That's not going to do anything. And then after we have the end of this link that we have here, we'll do contact just like we did with the other menu. We can still throw in different span elements to create our caret symbols for us for our drop down to make it look a little bit better. And then we'll go and get this link right here and throw that at the end. And after we have that set up, then all we have to do is throw another unordered list inside of there to have all of our different options that are available. So unordered list, class, and this is going to be drop down menu. And then we throw in our different list items. So list item, and then just like we did previously, well, let's close off that list item, email, and schedule, and reload it. And there you can see. Now you have different ways of selecting all these different guys, and there you can see that we can also go and click on these also. So pretty cool stuff. So let's go, and since we talked about pills, why don't I go and talk about other different tabbed interfaces as well as pilled interfaces. Now what this is going to allow us to do is to create like tabs on our screen that's going to change information in a div based off of different buttons that are clicked. So I want to have horizontally across the top of the screen, I'm going to have a list of different options, and I'm going to use navigation just like previously, and nav pills, which are going to be like the little rounded off edged things. You could also put tabs inside of there, just change that from pills to tabs. Close that off, and then we'll put in our different options we have. So we have class is equal to, let's go and make this the active tab on our screen whenever it first loads up. And the difference here is, since we're going to be changing data inside of a div down below, we're going to reference that div being the one that we want to show on the screen, and by default it's going to show up there. So we'll just have Superman. Whenever this is clicked on, it's going to show Superman's information on the screen, and we can close that off. And let's go and have a couple different superheroes inside of here. So we could also have Batman. This isn't going to be active though. You can only have one of them active, so get rid of that. And this one's going to be changed to Batman, and change this to Batman. For this guy right here, we're going to change the class for this. Let's go and show you another drop down. So let's just say it's a drop down, because that's exactly what it is. Then whenever we do that, for the link inside of it, we're going to change this class to drop down toggle. And what do we do every single time we have drop down toggle? Well, we go data toggle is equal to drop down. We're not going to have this link to anything. Whenever they click on that, there's actually going to be two different types of flash. So whenever they click on flash, it's going to show a couple different things. Right after the flash, however, I'd also like to come in here and throw a span class inside of it so that I can show a caret on the screen so that they know that it's a drop down just by looking at it. There's that span, and then that'll be the end of that link, but it's not the end of the drop down yet because we want to put different options inside of it. So an unordered list, class, and this is going to be a drop down menu, and then we can put our different items inside of here. Let's close off that unordered list so that we know where that is, and now we'll just list all of our different items inside of here. If we'd like to have one of those items disabled, once again you just type in class disabled and it automatically disables it. That works on tons of components. Inside of this list item we can go reference, and this one's going to point at the information on flash, and we're just going to call him the flash, and then we're going to do another one that's going to be kid flash. So let's just go like this, and as soon as this link ends right here, throw another one inside of there. Come down here where it says Batman and instead change this to kid flash. Change this to kid flash. Change this link here to data toggle is equal to tab. All the rest of that's fine. So now what we need to do after we have created this unordered list of things that we can click on across the top of the screen, we then want to list all of the information we want to show whenever those different tabs are clicked on. And to do that, we create another div and give it the class name of tab content. And then we'll just separate all of them. So we'll go div. This is going to have the ID of Superman, which is what we'll be referencing whenever they're on the tabs. Like these guys up here, say Superman, right there, Superman. That's what we're referencing right there. Class is going to be equal to, this is going to be a tab pane, which is what we're using. And we could say that it's going to fade off the screen, and we'll say that it's going to be active. That's by default. It's going to be the active thing on the screen whenever it loads. Close off that div and then put information in here that you want to show. And I just threw in paragraph tags for all of our different superheroes. And if I reload it, you can see Superman is active by default. If I click on Batman, Batman's information shows up. If I click on Flash, the Flash and Kid Flash drop down show up. This is disabled like I disabled it, and Kid Flash shows up Kid Flash information. So there's tabbed interfaces as well as pilled interfaces. Now let's take a look at collapsible navigation bars, which are ridiculously cool. Now I just went ahead and copied and pasted this in here because this is the way you always will do navigation bars. I'm going to walk you through what every single thing means. However, this is a copy and paste thing. This isn't something you memorize by any stretch of the imagination. And as you can see over here, it's a very functional little navigation bar. It throws it inside of there. It has an icon, has different options we can select, has drop downs that we can also click on. And as you can see, I went and copied and pasted in the navigation bar. I'm going to explain every single line here, but as you can see, it is very useful. We're going to be able to shrink this down. It automatically scales, and also it's going to create this little menu here depending upon smaller screen sizes directly for you, so it's extremely useful. And it's also going to allow us to add in both buttons and drop downs as well as a search bar as well as a submit button. So basically I'm going to go through all the different options we have here. So this is container fluid, which means it's going to completely fill the container part that we have right here. Nav bar default are the ways that you define that you're going to actually use a navbar. Then you're going to put in a div with the class name of navbar header. Another option you can have here is instead of navbar default, you could come in and put navbar fixed dash top, and that's going to always keep it on the screen, or navbar fixed bottom, which is always going to keep it at the bottom of the screen. Bottom. There we go. And so go and play around with that for homework just to see how that looks, but I'm just going to keep it navbar default, which means it's going to scale, so as the screen is scrolled it's going to disappear and come back and so forth and so on. This button right here is going to be the button that toggles the navbar on and off whenever you're on smaller screens. So that button is actually this button here with all the dashes inside of it. And it uses data toggle collapse, and just like you saw previously with the other different guys that we were playing around with, and there's the RA expanded false and so forth and so on. This span right here is only there to hide information from screen readers. This guy right here is actually the bars that are drawn inside of this button right here. So these three bars that you see right there, that's what these three bars are. So yes, indeed, you do need them, or you could throw something else inside of that span, some other icon or something if you'd prefer. Right here is where we have our logo, and you're going to have to play around with the logo that you have. Pull left, of course, is going to, it just works exactly the same way as float left. It's going to put it on the left side of your bar. And whenever you're working with the image you're going to place inside of there, your logo, you're going to have to add padding in your image on the top and the right until it fits in there just right. And that's something you're going to have to do in some sort of graphics program like Photoshop, something like that. And then down inside of this div, we're going to collect the nav links, forms, and other content that's going to be toggled on and off on the screen whenever the screen is too small to display all that information. And then down inside of here, you can see that I have all of my links. So there is my home, there is the about, there's drop downs. We're going to create drop downs in exactly the same way that we've gone over many other different times. Here you can see there's the drop down part with the email and set appointments and all those other different things. You can see right here is where we're going to have our search form. You can see that we grouped those items together. There is the input box that we have right there. And then here is our submit button. And then this is closing off all the other different divs. So that's how we would create a nav bar that's going to automatically resize and shrink and show up different menus depending upon the screen size. So really neat. Pagination is also going to be very easy to implement. Again, we're going to throw this inside of our container area. And then we're just going to create a nav element inside of here. Inside of that, we'll then put in an unordered list. And our class here is going to be pagination. Close that off. Close off our unordered list. And we're going to list all of our different elements that we want to show up inside of here. So list item, of course. And then we're going to put in our different links. And it's done a little bit different. We'll go hrefs. We're going to have this go into nowhere because it doesn't really matter. ARIA label. And this is going to be previous for screen readers, like we've talked about previously. And then we can throw in another icon. ARIA, let's hide this icon from screen readers so it doesn't cause confusion. And that's what that does. And then I'm going to go LAQUO, which is going to draw that little arrow. And then we're going to close off our span. And then close off this list item. And then we're going to put all of the other different pages that we want to show up in our list. So just create a whole bunch of list items with a whole bunch of links inside of them. So if you want to show 5 pages, well, let's just go in here and put 1, close that off. And then of course you just have to come in and change these to all the different page items. And of course the links would have to go to some page somewhere. And at the very end you're going to create pretty much exactly the same thing as you created here for the previous. And this is going to be changed to next. So let's just change this to next. This is going to be right, RAQUO instead of LAQUO. And everything else should be all set up. And reload it, and you can see the pagination automatically works for us. We'll be able to come in there. So another nice little component. Now let's take a look at thumbnails. Here what I'm going to do inside of container and then inside of the div for row is create 4 columns of, it's going to have an image, a header, it's going to have a description, and then it's going to have the option for the user to click on it to add to cart or something like that. So it's just a basic sort of shopping cart type of thing. So since we're going to be working with columns, that means we're going to have to come in and mess around with the different classes on how this information is going to be divided up. So we're going to say that whenever it's in large mode, we want each of these to take up 3 spaces, and medium is going to be 3, and let's just have them all be exactly the same, is 3. So under all situations they're going to take up or divide up the 3 different columns between the 4 different elements that I'm going to display on the screen. Then inside of each one of these guys I'm going to throw a thumbnail as well as a caption. So I'm going to go div class is equal to thumbnail, throw an image inside of it, and I already went and created one of these, so I'll go thumb1, and this is a ping file. Let's just go and have the alt be just nothing. And then inside of this, wherever you want to put your text, you're going to go div class is equal to and caption, and then inside of there you can put in your header file as well as paragraph and then a button. And if we reload it, you can see there's hamburger with a little image inside of it, and then we're just going to throw 3 more of those inside of there. And we did exactly the same thing. If we reload it, you're going to see all 4 of them show up inside of there. And if I went, this changed to meatball sub, we can mess around with that, but you can see that they all line up pretty nice. There it scales a little bit better, and they're automatically going to get a little bit funky right there. In that situation, these should have been moved down so that they were stacked on top of each other for smaller screens, but either way, you get the idea. And now I'll show you how to set up a progress bar, and it's basically just going to provide for an easy way for you to provide feedback to users by changing a value for our progress bar. And to create one, again, inside of a container, we're just going to say div and class and progress. And then inside of that div, we're going to create another div, and it's going to have the class of progress bar. And you can either have it be a basic flat colored progress bar or have it be a striped progress bar. I like the striped version a little bit better, so I'm going to keep it that way. And the role in this situation is progress bar. And then aria value now, this is going to be something you would change. So let's say we want it to be 60. Just put 60 inside of there. And that's what it's going to demonstrate on our progress bar. And then inside of here, we can say the minimum value on our progress bar is going to be 0. And the maximum value on our progress bar is going to be 100. And let's go and style this then to have a width of 60%. And you can see it would be very easy to change the progress bar value on the screen. And then we could also come in and throw a span at the end of it that would say class SR only, and say something like 60% complete. Something else we could change with JavaScript. And then save that, reload it, and you can see right there is the progress bar, and you can see that it's striped the way that I have it right there. Now let's go and take a look at media objects. Now a media object is basically going to allow us to structure information on the screen sort of like in a blog format, and we could also set it up to make it look like a commenting system where one person's commenting to another person's response. Again, we're going to put this inside a container, and then we're going to create another div, and it's going to be class of media. And whenever we're talking about media, we're going to be talking about an image that we're going to be showing on the screen, and we're going to decide on the placement of that by surrounding an image with a div that's going to have a class. And we're going to say that we want the image to be on the left and that we want it to be on the top. So the upper left hand corner of the display of information on our screen. And then inside of this we could throw in, let's just make it a link, and that's just going to allow them to click on a thumbnail and display some type of information if they'd like. There's going to be an image inside of it, and I'm just going to say thumb1.ping. I'm going to use the same images that I used previously, except here I'm going to say class is equal to media object, and then we'll just throw alt in here of nothing again. Then outside of the div that's going to surround our thumbnail, I'm going to throw another div inside of this. However, this one's going to have media body, and this is going to be the text that's going to accompany that image. And then inside of here we can throw in a header tag as well as a whole bunch of paragraphs of information. And if we reload it, you can see exactly how that shows up on the screen. And it's automatically going to scale and do all those different things that we'd like. And then of course right after that we could throw in exactly the same type of thing. Again, media, there's a different thumb, there's a different media body, there's more information, and you can see how they line up like a blog formatted type of thing. And you could also have these be nested and so forth. I'm actually not going to cover that. I'll just let that be in the code that's in a link in the description. You can go take a look at how to do that. It's very simple. That would just allow you to indent all this information. And then to round off everything, I'm going to cover some information on lists and how we can mess around with them. Let's create a list group right here. So unordered list, class is equal to list group, close off the unordered list of course. Then we're going to throw in some list items. Class is equal to, we'll go list group item because that's what it is. If you want to have one of the items in your list disabled, you just put disabled inside of there. Let's just go and put something like Verizon email. Throw in another list item, give this the same class name. Class is equal to list group item, just like we had previously. And then for this one we could also add badges to these guys. So for this list item, what I'm basically going to try to mock up here is like an email type of system. So we could say span class is equal to, you can use badges, which is another Bootstrap little interface tool. Say we want to have 123 emails from our Gmail account. We could do like this and then close off that list item, which is this guy right here. We could also come in and throw in another list item. So let's go in there like this. Class is equal to, and this is a list item group again, group item. Could also go list group item warning. This would represent our junk folder. Close off that list item. And then after those list items we have there in our unordered list, we could also add a list of links. So let's just throw that in. And this is going to have the class equal to list item group, just like the other one, or list group item. We could call that add account. We could also add any HTML elements we'd like to our list. So there's that. And guess what the class is going to be again? List group item. But just to show that we can put some more random things inside of here, let's go and throw an h4 tag inside of here. Class equal to, and we'll put this as list group item heading. And let's say we wanted to give them the option to click on this guy to delete their account. Close off the h4 tag. And then we could also throw a paragraph tag underneath of it. that's going to provide some information on what happens if this is clicked on. So list group item, and this is going to be listed as text, and we could say something like a warning like the account will be permanently deleted. So I'm just showing you all the different things you can put inside of a list. You could also put buttons in your list. You can put anything in your list. I'm just showing you how to set up all of them. So there you go, there's a button, and for those you're going to go class equal to list group item just like before, and you can do check for mail and then close off that button, and that's basically it. So let's go and save that and reload it, and you can see right there I pretty much knocked off the type of interface you would see with an email client. So you could, there's the Verizon email, it doesn't have anything or it's disabled, and it is disabled. There's Gmail, that's how we set up our badge. This is our junk folder. Add account, that's a button we could click on to add a new account. Delete account, that's the way we could delete it. And check for mail, another button. So there you go, guys. That's pretty much all that you could ever want to know about Bootstrap. And please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.